Marcus Adeyemi sat in his father's study, staring at the divorce papers on the desk. This was the third time in 2 years. 3 women, 3 broken engagements, all ending the same way. "I'm sorry, Marcus," the last one had said, "but I can't marry someone who won't give me access to the family accounts before the wedding. How do I know you really love me?" He had loved her, or at least he thought he did. But the moment he hesitated to add her name to his bank accounts, she was gone. Just like the others. His father, Chief Adeyemi, walked into the room. The old man was 70 but still strong and sharp. He had built an empire from nothing and understood people better than anyone Marcus knew. "Son," he said, sitting down slowly, "your mother and I have been talking. These women don't love you. They love what you have." Marcus nodded. He already knew this, but hearing it still hurt. "So what do I do, Dad? Every woman I meet is the same. The moment they find out who I am, everything changes. Their eyes light up, but not for me. For the cars, the houses, the money." Chief Adeyemi smiled. "Then don't let them find out." Marcus looked up. "What do you mean?" "Hide who you are. Pretend to be ordinary. Poor, even. If a woman can love you when she thinks you have nothing, then you'll know her heart is real." He thought about this for a long time. It sounded crazy, but he was tired of being used. Tired of smiles and sweet words that meant nothing. "I'll do it," he said. "But how? Where do I even start?" His father walked to the window. "A woman's real character shows when she thinks no one important is watching. Watch how she treats the weak, the people she thinks are beneath her. That will tell you everything." 2 weeks later, Marcus attended a charity event. He went alone, dressed in a simple suit, nothing flashy. He stayed in the background, just observing. That was when he saw her. She stood near the champagne fountain, laughing with her friends. Her name was Helen Adams. The red dress she wore probably cost more than most people earned in a year. Her skin glowed under the lights, her smile bright and confident. She was the most beautiful woman in the room. He asked around and learned she was the daughter of Chief Richard Adams, one of the biggest businessmen in the city. Her father owned hotels, estates, and had connections everywhere. He watched her all night. She moved like royalty, talking only to people who looked wealthy. When a waiter bumped into her, she didn't even look at him. She simply wiped her dress and continued her conversation. Something in him said to walk away, but he couldn't. He was drawn to her beauty and confidence. He made a decision that night, a risky one. He would work for her father, not as the son of Chief Adeyemi, but as a nobody, a driver. He would get close enough to see who she truly was when she thought no one important was looking. If her heart was good, he would reveal himself. If not, at least he would know the truth. The next morning, he packed away his expensive clothes. He went to a thrift shop and bought what a struggling man would wear. Faded shirts, old trousers, worn-out shoes. His father helped him create a fake identity and a history of working as a driver in another city. "Are you sure about this?" his father asked. Marcus nodded. "I have to know if real love still exists." 3 days later, he applied for a job at Chief Richard Adams' house. The position was simple, house driver. As he walked toward the gate of the mansion for his interview, his heart beat fast. Somewhere inside that house was Helen, the woman he hoped would prove him wrong about. The Adams mansion was huge. 3 stories tall with a fountain in front and more cars than Marcus could count. Even though he came from wealth, he pretended to be amazed as he stood at the gate, looking nervous. The gateman, an older man named Joseph, opened the small side door and asked what he wanted. Marcus greeted him politely and explained that he had come for the driver position. Joseph looked him over, sighed, and waved him inside. Marcus ended up standing in the hot sun for 20 minutes before someone finally came. A young woman in a simple uniform approached, looking tired, the kind of tired that came from working too hard for too little. She told him quietly to follow her because Chief Adams was ready to see him. Marcus walked behind her through a spotless side entrance. She led him to an office and knocked softly. A deep voice from inside told them to come in. Chief Richard Adams sat behind a large desk. A big man with a serious expression, studying Marcus like he was trying to see through his story. He confirmed Marcus's name and asked him to sit. He checked Marcus's file and questioned his work history, asking why he had left his previous job in Lagos. Marcus gave the answer he had prepared, His former boss had relocated abroad and he needed work to support his family. Chief Adams wasn't convinced at first. He pointed out that Marcus spoke too well for a driver and asked about his education. Marcus explained he finished secondary school but couldn't afford university. That eased the suspicion slightly. The chief laid out the job expectations: drive his daughter anywhere she needed to go, keep the cars clean, avoid gossip, avoid questions. Marcus agreed. He was told he would stay in the boys' quarters, earn 60,000 naira a month with food provided, and start the next day. 60,000 was less than he spent on lunch, but he accepted it without reaction. The next morning, Marcus moved into his small room, just a bed, a fan, and bare walls. It was unlike anything he had lived in before, but he stayed committed. The young woman from the day before brought him breakfast, bread and tea, and introduced herself as Grace, the chef and house cleaner. She offered help if he needed anything. Marcus thanked her politely, calling her sister Grace. She smiled faintly and told him just to call her Grace, adding that she hoped he survived the house. When he asked what she meant, she walked away before he could get an answer. An hour later, Marcus met Helen for the first time. She came out wearing sunglasses, talking on her phone, and didn't look at him. She snapped her fingers, pointed at her car, and ordered him to wash it properly or lose his job. Anger rose inside him, but he swallowed it. This was the test. He washed her white Range Rover for an hour, making sure it was spotless. Helen came out, inspected it, ran her finger along the surface, and claimed it was still dirty. She ordered him to do it again. The car was clean, but Marcus didn't argue. He washed it a second time. She didn't even return to check, simply drove off and left him under the sun. That night, Marcus lay on his bed exhausted. Helen's face stayed in his mind, beautiful, but cold. She spoke to him without seeing him. He wondered if this was a mistake, if he should leave before things got worse. But then he remembered why he came. He needed to be sure. He needed to see if there was any true goodness beneath that beauty. Marcus woke at 5. His body still ached from washing Helen's car twice the previous day, but the cars had to be cleaned before 7. He stepped outside and began working in the cool, quiet morning air. For a moment, he almost forgot why he was here, until shouting broke the silence. "Are you stupid? I said I wanted my eggs soft, not hard." It was Helen. Marcus paused. "I'm sorry, Ma. Let me make it again," Grace said. "Sorry doesn't fix my breakfast. Just get out of my sight before I slap you." Grace came out moments later, holding a plate with shaking hands. She tried to look away, but he had already seen her tears as she walked past him. Helen soon appeared, saw the broken eggs on the ground, and called Joseph. "Tell that useless girl to come and clean this on her knees. Use her bare hands." Joseph's face tightened, but he obeyed. Grace returned, knelt on the hard floor and picked up the mess silently while Helen watched from the balcony with a satisfied smile. Marcus' fists tightened. It was wrong, but he couldn't act yet. Later, Helen's friends Kyoma and Blessing arrived. Marcus was washing a car when Helen called him. "Driver, come here. Drive us to the mall." He obeyed. The 3 women talked in the back seat as if he were invisible. Helen complained loudly about Grace. "I made her clean the mess on her knees. She should be grateful my father employs her." They laughed. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. At the mall, the women shopped for hours. Marcus followed behind them carrying their bags until his arms ached. No one thanked him. When Blessing dropped her phone, he picked it up and handed it to her, and she didn't even look at him. On the drive back, Helen counted money and bragged about spending almost 200,000 naira on a Gucci bag. He listened quietly, feeling the weight of the difference between her world and the salary he now earned. They returned home and he carried all the shopping bags inside. His back hurt by the time he reached his room. A message from his father arrived. "How is it going, son? Have you learned anything?" Marcus replied, "Yes, Dad. I'm learning a lot, but I don't think I like what I'm seeing." That evening, Grace brought his food and turned to leave, but he stopped her. "Sister Grace, are you okay?" She hesitated. "I'm fine. What happened this morning wasn't right." She faced him slowly, eyes red. "This is how it is here. Sister Helen treats all of us like this. I can't leave. My younger siblings depend on me. My parents are gone. If I lose this job, they will suffer." Something shifted inside Marcus. Here was someone working hard just to keep her family alive while Helen made her kneel for mistakes. "One day things will be better. I promise," he said. She looked surprised. "You're a kind man. Don't let this place change you." When she left, Marcus sat in the dark thinking about Helen. Beautiful face, cruel heart. He had come hoping to find love, but what he saw was a different kind of woman entirely. Still, he wasn't ready to walk away. Not yet. Maybe there was more beneath the surface, even though deep down, he already knew the truth. He just wasn't ready to accept it. One Friday, Helen announced she was throwing a pool party. She told everyone she was inviting 20 friends and wanted the best food and drinks, everything perfect. Mrs. Adams agreed immediately. Marcus was assigned to serve drinks while Grace handled the food. By Saturday afternoon, expensive cars filled the compound. Young men and women stepped out dressed in designer clothes, laughing loudly as if the world belonged to them. Helen wore a gold swimsuit that probably cost more than Marcus earned in months. Her boyfriend, Daniel, arrived in a red Mercedes, tall and confident. He told her she looked amazing, and she simply checked her reflection and agreed. The party began with loud music and splashing water. Marcus walked around with a tray of drinks. Most guests took glasses without looking at him. Some snapped their fingers or ordered him around. He obeyed, keeping his expression calm while anger simmered underneath. By late afternoon, things worsened. Helen and her friends were drunk, their laughter sharp and mocking. Kioma suddenly shouted that they should play a game and suggested making the staff entertain them. Blessing supported the idea and pushed Helen to make her drive a dance. Helen's eyes lit up and she called Marcus. He already sensed trouble as he approached. She told him her friends wanted entertainment and ordered him to dance. Marcus tried to explain that he didn't know how, but she warned him that refusing meant getting fired. Daniel encouraged him mockingly. About 25 guests stared at him, phones pointed toward him. Marcus wanted to walk away and reveal who he truly was, but he needed to see how far Helen could go. So he danced, slow, uncomfortable, and forced. The crowd erupted in laughter. Kioma screamed that it was too funny. Blessing lifted her phone to record him. Daniel began throwing 500 naira notes at him, telling him to dance for his money. Others joined in until money rained down on Marcus while people doubled over laughing. Helen laughed harder than everyone. He kept dancing, each note feeling like humiliation. Eventually Helen waved him off, calling the dance pathetic and telling him to gather the money. More laughter followed as he bent down, his hands shaking. Daniel whispered behind him that the driver was funny. Helen replied that he was boring and looked like he wanted to cry. When Marcus picked up the last note, Blessing pretended to trip and splashed champagne across his shirt. She apologized sarcastically and mocked the cost of his clothing. The crowd roared again. Marcus stayed calm and quietly excused himself. He locked himself in his room and sat on his bed staring at the wet money, 15,000 naira. That was the price of his humiliation. He wanted to shout, to reveal who he really was, but he stayed silent. A soft knock came. Grace's voice identified her. He opened the door and she stood there with a clean shirt and food. She told him she had seen what happened and was sorry. She handed him the shirt, explaining it belonged to her father. Marcus was moved by her kindness. He asked her why she was different from everyone else. She said she knew what it felt like to be treated like nothing and refused to treat others that way. She turned to leave, but Marcus stopped her and handed her the money, asking her to give it to Joseph for his daughter's school fees and to say it came from a friend. Grace's eyes filled with tears and she told him he was too good for the place. After she left, Marcus lay on his bed listening to the party outside. The laughter, the music, Helen's voice echoing over everything. Something shifted inside him. His hope for Helen was nearly gone. The dream of finding love with her had turned into a nightmare. But somewhere in the kitchen, Grace sat alone thinking about the man who gave away money he had been mocked with. A man who stayed kind in a cruel house. For the first time in a long while, she felt something she thought she'd lost. Hope. After the pool party, something changed between Marcus and Grace. They noticed each other more, small smiles, quiet thank yous, moments that felt gentle in a house filled with cruelty. Grace's life was tough. She woke before dawn to cook, cleaned the entire house alone, cooked again, and often worked until late at night. She earned 70,000 naira and sent most of it to her siblings in the village. One evening, Marcus saw her struggling with a heavy bag of rice. "Sister Grace, let me help you." She tried to refuse, but he had already taken it from her. "Thank you, Brother Marcus," she said softly. As they walked, she said, "You're different. You notice when people need help." "My mother taught me everyone deserves respect," he said. "She must have been good," Grace replied. "My parents are gone too. That's why I had to start working so young." Her honesty touched him. She told him she once dreamed of opening a small restaurant. For a moment, she looked happy just thinking about it. "You'll do it," Marcus said. "I believe that." She smiled, though it held a bit of sadness. From then on, she brought him food at night, real food, not leftovers. "You work hard. You should eat well," she said. They would sit outside talking about life, dreams, and the weight they both carried. She told him about her younger siblings and how she was raising them alone. Her strength amazed him. One night she brought a small radio. "Let's listen to music. The nights get too quiet." They listened to old songs as she hummed gently. Marcus watched her and felt something warm growing inside him, something he didn't expect. "Sister Grace, if you could go anywhere, where would you go?" "The beach. I've never seen the ocean." "One day, you'll go. I promise." "You make many promises," she said, looking at him differently. "I hope you can keep them." She stood up quickly. "I should go before someone sees us." "Thank you for the food," he said. After she left, Marcus sat alone thinking. He had come here searching for love with Helen, but what he found instead was kindness from the one person everyone ignored. Helen was beautiful but cold. Grace was the opposite, gentle, warm, and giving. In her room, Grace lay awake thinking about him, trying to convince herself he was only being kind. But her heart knew something had begun, something dangerous and beautiful. The next morning started like any other. Grace woke before dawn to prepare breakfast. She made eggs, toast and fresh orange juice, doing everything carefully because Helen had been in a terrible mood. Daniel had traveled to London and hadn't called her in 3 days, so she poured her frustration on everyone in the house. At 7, the family sat down to eat. Chief Adams read his newspaper, Mrs. Adams scrolled through her phone, and Helen picked at her food with an irritated frown. Grace stood nearby, watching quietly. Suddenly, Helen threw her fork onto the plate. "This is disgusting." Her mother looked up. "What's wrong, dear?" "This egg. It's too salty. How many times do I have to tell this girl how to cook eggs?" Grace felt her chest tighten. She had tasted the eggs. They were fine. "I'm sorry, Ma. Let me make another one." "Sorry. You're always sorry." Helen stood up, anger rising. Chief Adams tried to calm her, but it only made her angrier. "Daddy, I'm tired of this useless girl. She can't do anything right." Grace blinked fast to hold back tears. "Please, Ma. I'll be more careful." Helen waved her away. Grace cleared the table and hurried to the kitchen. Her hands shook as she scraped the food into the trash. No matter what she did, nothing was ever good enough. Later, she made Helen's favorite soup, checking the seasoning over and over. Lunch went quietly, and Grace hoped the day would end without another incident. After hours of cleaning, her body ached. She saw the leftovers and thought about Marcus. He had worked all day too. He would be hungry. When she checked the hallway, everyone was in their rooms. She quickly packed the food and walked to the boys' quarters. Marcus looked up when he saw her. "Sister Grace, you shouldn't be here. You need to eat. I brought leftovers." Their hands touched briefly as she passed him the container. A spark moved through both of them. "You're always taking care of me," he said. "Someone has to," she replied. Neither of them saw Helen at the upstairs window watching the moment. Her eyes narrowed and a smile formed. She finally had an excuse to punish Grace. Minutes later, Helen's voice cut through the compound. "Grace, come here. Now." Grace froze. Marcus stood up. Helen came down the stairs with her mother behind her. "So this is what you do when you think no one is watching. You steal food from my father's house to feed your boyfriend." "Ma, please, it's not." "Shut up." The slap came fast and hard. Grace's head snapped to the side. Marcus felt rage shoot through him, but he stayed still. If he reacted, his cover would break. Helen stepped closer. How dare you steal from us? My father pays you, feeds you, gives you a room, and you repay him by stealing. Grace's cheek burned red. Tears fell. I'm sorry, Ma. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Adams shook her head. Grace, this is disappointing. It was just leftovers, Grace whispered. Helen laughed. Leftovers? Everything here costs money. And you think you can give it away? Marcus finally spoke. Madam Helen, please. It was my fault. I asked her for food. Helen turned sharply toward him. You. Be quiet before I fire you. She faced Grace again. 50,000 naira will be deducted from your next salary. Grace's knees gave out. Please, Ma. My siblings. They depend on me. They need the money for school. Should have thought about that before stealing, Helen said coldly. Grace rose slowly and walked away, shaking with shame. Marcus watched her disappear toward the kitchen. Something inside him cracked. That was cruel, he said quietly. Helen's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I said it was cruel. She works harder than anyone here, and you punish her for kindness. Helen stepped close. Let me tell you something, driver boy. You're nothing. Nobody. Be grateful you even have work here. He looked into her eyes and saw only emptiness. I understand exactly who you are now. That night Marcus couldn't sleep. Grace's swollen cheek, her tears, her begging replayed in his mind. 50,000 naira meant nothing to him, but revealing himself now would ruin everything. Around midnight, he heard quiet crying from the servants' quarters. He knew it was Grace. He wanted to go to her, hold her, comfort her, but he stayed in his room. I came here for Helen, he whispered, hoping she would be different, hoping her beauty meant something. I was wrong. He thought about Grace, her strength, her kindness, her warmth, her courage to smile through pain. And in that moment, everything changed. He realized he had come searching for love in the wrong place. He had chased a beautiful face while ignoring a beautiful soul. He had come here for Helen, but his heart was falling for Grace, and he couldn't stop it. 3 weeks passed after the slapping incident. Grace's cheek healed, but she grew quieter, working in silence and trying not to be noticed. Marcus refused to let her disappear. Every night, after everyone slept, he waited outside his room until Grace slowly returned to their late-night conversations, the only kindness she had in that house. One night they sat in the garden, the compound quiet. If you could go anywhere, Marcus asked, where would you go? Paris, she said. It looks like a place where dreams live. You'll go there one day, he promised. She shook her head. People like us don't go to Paris. We just survive. Marcus moved closer. You're not background to me, Grace. You're everything I didn't know I was looking for. Her breath caught. Don't say that if you don't mean it. I mean it. They grew quiet. Grace wiped her eyes. I thought Helen would break you like the others. But you're still here. Why? I stayed because of you. Before she could respond, a voice snapped through the night. Well, what do we have here? Helen stood at the corner of the garden recording them on her phone, delighted. The maid and the driver having a romantic moment. Wonderful. Marcus stepped in front of Grace, but Helen circled them, filming. Then she called Kyoma on video. Look, they fit each other. Kyoma laughed. A perfect poverty love story. Helen's voice grew sharper. You're nothing. Both of you. Without my father, you'd be on the streets. Let me tell you your future, a dirty room in the village, hungry children, and poverty forever. Grace cried silently. Marcus finally snapped. You're right about one thing. We do fit each other. Because we have something you'll never have. And what's that? A heart. Helen's smile dropped. You're fired. Kyoma interrupted. No, keep them. This is too funny. Helen smirked. Fine. You're not fired. But if I see you together again, you're both gone. She walked off laughing. Grace collapsed on a bench. This is my fault, Marcus said. No, she whispered. She's right. We don't belong together. Please, stay away from me. She walked away, crying. Above them, Helen watched from her window, satisfied. She thought she'd crushed them. What she didn't know was that Marcus was done pretending. Tomorrow, he would tell Grace the truth and end this cruel game for good. The next morning, Marcus made up his mind. He couldn't keep pretending or let Grace suffer while Helen walked around untouched. Before revealing his real identity, he wanted one final confirmation, proof of who Helen truly was. That afternoon, Chief Adams hosted a business dinner. 20 wealthy guests were coming for an important deal. Helen had been preparing for days, picking the perfect dress, the perfect earrings, the perfect smile. Marcus watched her from a distance. She looked stunning, but now all he saw was ugliness beneath the beauty. Guests arrived at 6. Expensive cars filled the driveway. Marcus, assigned to serve drinks, moved quietly among them with a tray of champagne. Helen shone in the middle of the crowd, laughing loudly and touching people's arms. Around 7, Helen stepped away from the crowd to check her makeup in a hallway mirror. This was the moment Marcus had been waiting for. He walked toward her, heart pounding. "Excuse me, Miss Helen." She didn't hide her annoyance. "What? I'm busy. I know this isn't the right time, and I know I'm just a driver, but I need to say something." Helen frowned, confused. "I think you're beautiful. I've thought so since the first day I saw you. And I know I'm not in your class, but I was wondering if, maybe, you would consider having coffee with me sometime." For a moment she blinked, stunned. Then she burst into loud, uncontrollable laughter that echoed down the hallway. "Oh my God, this is too much." Her laughter drew Kioma, Blessing, and several guests. "What happened?" Helen pointed at Marcus, gasping with laughter. "The driver just asked me out." The hallway exploded with amusement. More people gathered until about 15 stood staring at him. "Wait, seriously?" Blessing said. "Your driver?" "Yes. He wants to take me for coffee." Helen cried. Helen moved closer, cruel delight shining in her eyes. She raised her voice for everyone to hear. "Let me educate you, driver boy. I am Helen Adams. My father owns half this city. My shoes cost more than your yearly salary. My purse is more than your entire life." Marcus stayed silent. "And you're a driver. You wash my car, carry bags, serve drinks. That's who you are. That's all you'll ever be." "Helen, don't be too harsh," Kioma said, still laughing. "What would we even do on this date?" Helen continued. "Would you take me to some roadside cafe? Buy me 500 naira coffee. Arrive in my father's old Toyota and think I'd be impressed?" Guests laughed louder. "My boyfriend drives a Mercedes. He takes me to 5-star restaurants. And you think you can compete?" One man shook his head. "Young man, know your place. A woman like her isn't for you." A woman added, "These poor people are getting bold. They think hiring them makes us equals." Marcus listened to every insult quietly. Then Helen delivered her final blow. "Let me make this clear. Even if you were the last man on earth, even if every man disappeared, even if I was dying and you could save me, I would rather be alone forever than go on a date with you." The crowd applauded her cruelty. Marcus looked at her, calm. "Thank you, Miss Helen." She blinked. "For what?" "For showing me who you really are. For removing any doubt. For proving that beauty without character is empty." Her smile vanished. She stepped forward, angry. But Marcus had already walked away. Behind him he heard Daniel asking if Marcus had insulted her. Marcus went straight to his room, hands shaking with rage, not from humiliation, but from the truth he had finally confirmed. He picked up his phone and called his father. "Dad, it's time. I'm done here. Send the cars tomorrow. Everything." That night, Grace knocked on his door. She had been in the kitchen. She heard the laughter. She heard everything. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that." He looked at her gently. "Thank you, Grace." And she left for her room. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Marcus went to find Grace. She was in the kitchen finishing the dishes, eyes red from crying. "Grace, come with me. We need to talk." She followed him to his room, nervous. "Marcus, if Sister Helen catches us again, it doesn't matter anymore. After tonight, nothing will stay the same." She sat on the edge of his bed while Marcus took out his real phone, the latest model, and his real wallet with initials in gold. "Grace, I haven't been honest with you. Most of what I told you was a lie. Fear crossed her face. What do you mean? My name is Marcus Adeyemi, son of Chief Adeyemi. We own hotels, dealerships, estates. I'm not a driver. I'm a billionaire. Grace stared at him like she couldn't process the words. Marcus, don't joke like this. He showed her his ID, business cards, and bank app. She covered her mouth in shock. Oh my God. This is real. She stood quickly, stepping away. Why would you pretend? Why lie? Marcus told her everything. The women who used him, his father's advice, seeing Helen at the charity event, taking the job to test her character. I came here for her, hoping she had a good heart. But she doesn't. So all this time you were pretending. Everything was fake. Not everything. My feelings for you are real. I fell in love with you. Not because of what you have, but who you are. Tears rolled down Grace's cheeks. Marcus, I'm a maid. Your family will never accept me. My father told me to find a woman with a good heart. I found her. Give me a chance. Before she could answer, shouting came from the main house. Helen crying. Mrs. Adams trying to calm her. Daniel had broken up with her over the phone. He didn't even give a reason. For one moment, Helen looked human. Then the next morning she was back to her cruel self, punishing the staff harder than ever. 6 months passed. Marcus kept working as a driver, but now Grace knew the truth. Their relationship stayed secret as they waited for the right moment. During that time, Helen got married. Chief Adams arranged the marriage with a wealthy man named Tony from an old rich family. The wedding was grand and everywhere in the news. Grace and Marcus watched from a distance. Do you feel anything? Grace asked. No, because I know money can buy a wedding but not a happy marriage. Marcus was right. 3 months later, cracks appeared. Tony had an elderly housekeeper, Mama Kimi, who raised him. Helen hated her. Said she was too slow, too old. She wanted her fired. Tony refused, but Helen wouldn't stop tormenting the old woman. Then Helen insulted Tony's mother, called her cooking terrible, her clothes outdated, her presence embarrassing. That was the final straw. 8 months after the wedding, Tony filed for divorce. He said he couldn't live with her cruelty. Helen returned to her parents' house bitter and angry, blaming everyone but herself. Men are weak, she told her mother. Tony couldn't handle a strong woman. Mrs. Adams tried to reason with her, but Helen refused to listen. Deep inside, though, she was starting to question herself. Daniel left. Tony left. Everyone left. Meanwhile, Marcus made up his mind. The game had gone on long enough. He called his father. Dad, it's time. Come to Chief Adams' house. Bring everything. I want them to see who they've been mocking. Are you sure? More sure than anything. Grace was terrified. What if your family doesn't accept me? What if they think I want your money? Marcus took her hands. My father will see the truth. He'll see your heart. The date was set. In 3 days, Chief Adeyemi would visit for a business meeting. That meeting would change everything. 3 days later, Chief Adams was excited. Chief Adeyemi was coming for a business meeting. It was a big opportunity. He reminded Helen to look her best because the billionaire was bringing his son, a single man Helen hoped to impress. She spent hours getting ready in her best dress, perfect makeup, and expensive perfume. Around 2 o'clock, several luxury cars approached the house, 5 in total. Helen ran to the window, thrilled at the sight. The family went outside as security guards stepped out first, followed by Chief Adeyemi in a fine suit. Chief Adams welcomed him warmly while Helen stood poised, waiting for the sun to appear. When the Maybach door opened and Marcus stepped out, everything froze. Helen went pale. She whispered that it couldn't be real. Marcus walked forward confidently in a suit worth more than her wedding gown. He introduced himself as Marcus Adeyemi, CEO of Adeyemi Luxury Motors. Chief Adams was stunned, confused by the revelation that his driver was a billionaire. Helen stared, unable to speak. Kayoma and Blessing, who were visiting, stood in shock at the doorway. Marcus explained calmly that he was never poor and had only been pretending to test people's character. Helen suddenly remembered every insult she had ever thrown at him, the pool party humiliation, the slaps, the mockery. She began crying and begged for another chance, promising to change, promising she would be better. But Marcus said his heart belonged elsewhere. Grace entered through the gate wearing a simple, elegant dress. Marcus took her hand and told everyone she was the woman he wanted to marry. Helen's shock turned to horror. She asked how he could choose Grace the maid over her. Marcus explained that Grace loved him when she thought he had nothing, while Helen couldn't show respect when she believed he had nothing. He said that was the difference. Chief Adams tried to apologize, but Marcus reminded him that respect should be for everyone, rich or poor, important or not. Chief Adeyemi agreed. Because of the family's behavior toward others, the business deal was cancelled. Within days the story spread. Videos from the pool party surfaced online and the hashtag Helen the Heartless went viral. Companies distanced themselves from the Adams family. Helen's friends left her. She became a cautionary tale about beauty without character. A year later, Marcus and Grace married in a joyful ceremony. Grace's siblings cried with happiness, and Joseph the gateman was an honored guest. 5 years later, the couple had 2 children. Grace completed university and opened her restaurant, which grew into a national chain. Helen, humbled by life, eventually worked at a small boutique. One day she saw Marcus and Grace at a restaurant and walked up to them to apologize sincerely. Grace forgave her kindly but reminded her that forgiveness does not erase consequences. Marcus added that respect should always be given to everyone. Helen nodded with tears in her eyes and walked away quietly. Marcus turned to his wife and asked if she was happy. Grace squeezed his hand and told him she was happy every single day. And she truly was. Because real love is never about money or status. It's about the heart. And Marcus had found the one woman whose heart made everything else make sense. A maid who became his queen. The end. Treat everyone with kindness, because you never truly know who you're speaking to. The heart matters more than the bank account. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, please like and give us a thumbs up. Share it with friends and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.